For years, AI felt like something out of a movie, right? Well, that future, it's here. And it's not just playing games, it's running some of the world's most critical systems. Today, AI isn't some fancy feature, it's become the very foundation of modern business. But what happens when that foundation starts to crack? Let's dive in.
So the biggest change isn't even the AI itself. It's the fact that our old safety nets, they're basically gone. We're so incredibly reliant on automation now for everything, that the idea of just doing it by hand when a system fails, that's not really an option anymore. There's no big red button to fall back on.
And this raises the one critical question we absolutely have to answer. With no manual backup, what actually happens when an AI makes a tiny error, or develops a bias you can't see, or its performance just quietly gets worse over time? The fallout can be massive, and worse, it's often invisible until it's way too late. Okay, so to really get a handle on the scale of this risk, we've got to first look at just how deeply AI is woven into the very fabric of a modern company. I mean, AI is the new backbone, for real. It's chewing through amounts of data that would absolutely crush any human team. It's the conductor for workflows of mind-boggling complexity, and it's the engine that makes all this cloud and edge computing stuff actually work. This isn't just an add-on, it's the bedrock of how businesses stay afloat. But here's the catch. This complete and total reliance, it creates a whole new class of silent, really sneaky risks. Problems we're only now just learning how to even spot. Let's look at a couple that are totally unique to this new world of AI. First up is one of the most interesting ones, I think, model drift. So, picture this. You train an AI to spot financial fraud using data from last year. It's a genius at it. But this year, people's spending habits change. The AI doesn't know that. It doesn't adapt. Its predictions just get quietly worse and worse and worse. It's a silent failure that can go completely unnoticed for months, costing a fortune. And then there's the famous black box problem, or what the pros call explainability. An AI could make a huge decision, like, say, denying you a loan, but we might have absolutely no way of knowing why. And if you can't see the logic, how can you ever prove that decision was fair, or accurate, or not biased? The short answer is you can't. So to even begin to tackle these new threats, auditors needed a whole new playbook. And you can see it here. They've started to categorize this new landscape of risk. It starts with the basics, stuff like availability, is the AI even turned on? But it gets complex fast, moving to things like integrity and all the way down to that subtle danger of model drift we were just talking about. Okay, so identifying these risks is one thing, but the real trick is measuring them. How in the world do you decide which fire to put out first? Well, it all comes down to a really simple but powerful calculation. And here it is. Auditors use this simple matrix. They basically look at every risk on two scales. First, over on the left, what's the magnitude of impact? Is a failure just a small hiccup, or is it a total catastrophe? Then, on the right, what's the likelihood? How probable is it that this thing will actually happen? A risk that scores high on both, let's say a biased hiring AI at a huge company, that becomes an immediate all-hands-on-deck code red priority. All right, so once you've spotted the risks and you've measured them, then you can finally start building the guardrails to keep the AI on track. And this is done in layers, starting right from the ground up. Layer 1 is all about what we call general controls. You should think of these as the fundamental rules of the road that apply to everybody and everything in the company. We're not talking about one specific AI model here, but the entire environment it lives in. Things like rock-solid cybersecurity, a super strict process for updating any AI, and clear ethical oversight for the whole program. Then, Layer 2 gets way more specific. These are the business process controls. So if the general controls are the rules of the road, these are like these specific stop signs and speed bumps at a really dangerous intersection. They're built right into the workflow, where the AI is actually doing its job, like an automatic check to validate an AI's output before anyone uses it, or a mandatory fairness audit that runs every single day. And finally, we get to the really cool stuff, the AI-specific toolkit. This is designed for those unique challenges we talked about. You've got advanced things like explainability tools to finally crack open that black box. You have bias audits to hunt for those unintended consequences. You have data lineage tracking to make sure the AI isn't learning from bad data. And maybe most critically, you establish exactly when you must have a human in the loop for those really high-stakes decisions. And that right there brings us to what is probably the most important control of all. Because in a world that's increasingly driven by machines, the ultimate safeguard, well, it's still a person. So when you put all these pieces together, the risk assessment, the different layers of controls, you get a truly modern audit program. And this isn't some static checklist you do once a year. It's a dynamic, living strategy. It sets clear goals for the AI, it keeps a running list of all the unique AI risks, and it is constantly testing the models for accuracy, for fairness, and for resilience. And all of this leads to the single most important takeaway of our entire discussion. It's right here on the screen. AI tools are incredibly powerful partners, no doubt about it. They can boost what we're able to do, but they are not, and they cannot be, a replacement for human expertise, for context, and most importantly, for our judgment. Which, leaves us with a pretty fascinating question to think about for the future. As AI gets smarter and smarter and handles more of the technical grunt work, is it possible that our uniquely human ability to apply wisdom and ethics and judgment, will that become the single most valuable asset in any organization? Something to chew on. Thanks for joining this explainer.